What if the scariest monster was the one you never saw? No face, no form, no explanation, just fear. That's the genius of Josh Malerman, a writer who proved that imagination can be more terrifying than any creature ever shown on screen. And today, we're breaking down how he reinvented psychological horror. Josh Malerman is an American horror author best known for Bird Box. Before becoming famous, he was deeply influenced by classic horror literature and suspense films. But unlike many horror writers, Malerman focused less on monsters and more on the fear surrounding them. When Bird Box released in 2014, it immediately stood out. The story follows a terrifying world where seeing mysterious entities causes people to lose their minds instantly. And that concept changed modern horror, because the monster was never fully revealed. Most horror stories show the threat directly. Malerman does the opposite. He hides it, and psychologically, that's far more disturbing, because the human imagination creates fear stronger than visuals ever could. This is Malerman's greatest strength: implicit horror. He uses suggestion instead of explanation, atmosphere instead of gore, tension instead of shock. Readers become trapped inside uncertainty, and uncertainty creates anxiety. Malerman's stories feel oppressive, quiet, claustrophobic. Even normal environments become terrifying because danger could appear at any moment. That constant tension keeps readers emotionally trapped inside the narrative. The true horror in Malerman's work isn't physical violence. It's psychological collapse, fear, paranoia, isolation. The unseen monster often becomes a symbol of internal anxiety rather than just an external threat. Malerman focuses heavily on emotional vulnerability. His characters struggle with trauma, isolation, mental instability, fear of uncertainty, and because their emotional reactions feel authentic, the horror feels believable. Malerman understands something important: humans fear uncertainty more than clarity. When we don't fully understand danger, our imagination fills the gaps, and imagination can create limitless terror. That's why his stories stay in your mind long after they end. In many ways, the unseen creatures symbolize deeper human fears: loss of control, mental collapse, isolation, the fear of the unknown itself. The monsters matter less than what they psychologically represent. Another major technique in Bird Box is sound. Without sight, every sound becomes threatening. Whispers, footsteps, wind, silence itself becomes terrifying. Malerman transforms ordinary sensory experiences into psychological horror. Malerman uses slow pacing, minimal explanations, emotional tension, fragmented uncertainty, character vulnerability. These techniques create suspense without relying on graphic horror. Most horror asks, what does the monster look like? Malerman asks, what does fear feel like? That emotional focus makes his work more psychological and more lasting. Malerman helped popularize a style of horror focused on atmosphere, psychology, ambiguity, emotional dread. His influence can now be seen across modern horror fiction and film. If you want to write horror like Malerman, reveal less, build atmosphere carefully, focus on emotional fear, let readers imagine the monster, use uncertainty as tension. Sometimes, the unknown is the most powerful horror tool of all. At its core, Malerman's horror is about humanity confronting uncertainty and realizing that the things we cannot understand often frighten us the most. Josh Malerman changed horror by proving something simple: you don't need to show the monster to terrify the audience, because once fear enters the imagination, it becomes impossible to control. If you want more deep horror and storytelling breakdowns like this, subscribe, because the greatest horror stories aren't always the ones that show you the monster. They're the ones that make you imagine it yourself.